Hello and welcome back to Natix Rainmakers Laboratory. This is module 2.3, continuation of goal setting and time management. As you recall, last we left you off with the Peter Diamandis quote in the X Project about moonshot thinking, and that's one of those really cool things that when you start thinking about 10 times growth. I mean, I love the line in that video where they talk about if you want a car to go 50 miles on a gallon of gas, you may have to tweak things. But if you want it to go 500 miles, you've got to start over. And while I don't think that our industry requires us to start over, I think it does require us to think different in regards to how we approach things. When you talk about goal setting and things like that, thinking big, thinking about 10 times growth. What is it going to take to grow your book of business or your company 10 times where it's at today? It's going to take a retooling. And that video kind of helps set the primer for me, when you start talking about, okay, what is it going to take to grow 10 times? What are those special things? So we're going to continue here now, next in regards to the goal setting stuff. The term BHAGs actually came from the book Good to Great. BHAG is another acronym. You know our industry and acronyms. Boy, we've got acronyms for everything. Well, welcome to one more. A BHAG is a big, hairy, aggressive goal. And when you're setting your numbers, keep BHAGs in mind. So you start thinking about, okay, what are some ideas of BHAGs? So when Nike was first created back in the 1960s, their BHAG was that they wanted to crush Adidas. That was the number one producer of sports apparel when Nike was first launched. Now you're going to look at that and say, okay, that's not a SMART goal, is it? And you would be 100% correct. Also the same would be true with Honda in the 1970s when they said we're going to destroy Yamaha. That was in the marketplace. Yamaha was number one. Neither of those BHAGs are SMART goals, are they? There's nothing about specific, measurable, attainable, time sensitive, none of that. So it's interesting, and hopefully you picked up on that one right away. That means you're growing, boys and girls. So as we go through this thing, it's important to keep that BHAG mindset. That's that 10 times growth. I mean, how do you produce 10 times your current number? But you've also got to break it down into SMART goals. So we talked earlier about regardless of who gives you your number, have your own. And for me, one of those pro tips is that I typically take a number and I multiply it times 125%. So if I have a goal of 100 orders in a month, I'm going to revise that goal to 125% or 125 orders. So why 125%? You're going to see in the second part or the next section here when we talk about production dynamics. It's going to make a lot more sense to you in a couple of minutes, so stay with me here. But the primary reason for 125% is that life happens. It allows you to have a buffer. It should never be, I just missed my goal and I've got to worry about my job security, or I've got to worry about something else. The idea behind this 125%, hitting your goal is a huge deal, and you should be very proud when you do that. So make sure that the number you hit just isn't getting you by. So if you need 100 orders to keep the boss happy or whatever, make your number 125. So when you hit your number, it's a big dang deal. That's the walk away here, is that making sure hitting your goal is a big deal. So now that you have the number, here's another mind shift that needs to occur with you. You've got to expect it of yourself. Separate yourself from the number, or separate yourself from your number. You're going to be amazed what happens when you expect it to happen. This works great also with your team or office goals. So the concepts here, as you start conditioning yourself to expect you to hit the number, don't allow yourself excuses. If your number is 125, then you better figure out how to get to 125. And then, you know what I said before about the big five concepts. Hold yourself or your team to 5 goals or less. Don't try to complicate things by saying, okay, here are the 7 different goals that we're going to have. No one's going to pay attention to those. Pick the 5 drivers of your business. Those are where your goals are. Everything else is just an offshoot of that. So if you can hold yourself to 5 or less, you're going to be in the right boat. Now, I told you why that 125 number, 125% is going to make more sense to you. And this is a concept that I came across or was introduced to me, probably 20, 25 years ago. The concept is production dynamics. And the idea behind it is that production dynamics is the process of breaking down your goals into daily tasks that need to be achieved in order for you to hit your goal. So, for example, you go into once again, we'll focus in on the same goal here of hitting 100 orders. So step 1, multiply that times 125%, so 125 orders. So a daily goal of 125 orders divided by 20 working days in the average month is about 6.25 orders per day. Notice I said that about 6.25. It's 6.25 orders per day. So every day you hit that number is a big deal. Because if you hit that number every day, you're going to have 125 orders. So the idea behind this thing is that this is where hitting your goal is a big deal. There's an old adage about the best way to eat an elephant. And the answer, if you don't know, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Don't focus on the elephant, focus on the bite in front of you. And this is one of the cool things that production dynamics allows for you to do, is it breaks things down into manageable bites. So one of the first conversations that I have typically with my salespeople is to remind them that our industry is closer to a marathon than a sprint. When you think about the concept of a marathon runner, their pace is slower than a sprinter. They grind out the miles. You know, a marathon runner, if you're running 20 some miles, 26.2 miles, a bad mile is just that. It's a bad mile. Don't worry about it. Shake it off, move on to the next one. In that it's okay to have the occasional, and managers are going to cringe with this one, you can have a bad week or sometimes a bad month. You just can't string too many of them together. And make sure that the good months cover the shortfall of bad months. Production dynamics allow you to focus on longer term numbers and avoid the burnout. If you want to see a classic burnout, look in or ask a sprinter to run a marathon at a sprinter's pace. That's what happens, guys. You wind up going through, and so many times you get these sales folks that are sprinting to get to the next number, chasing the next deal, and that's not the race. The race is the whole stretch, the whole 26.2 miles. And going through that and adjusting your speed to be able to allow for things to happen and to figure out, okay, I'm going to run this mile a little bit faster than the last mile because I had a shortfall. I've got to make up for it. And then you can move on to the next level of that, is putting in personal bests. Figuring out and making it a game with yourself to say that, okay, I'm going to have 5 personal bests this year. So that means 5 given months, I'm going to increase my best. I'm going to better my best 5 times during the coming year. That's when you can start having games with yourself and figuring, okay, this is really starting to get fun. So a good rule of thumb when you start breaking down production dynamics is the 10-3-1 rule. And I'm going to show you kind of what this means. If you have a goal to set up 2 realtors, if you don't know how many phone conversations it's going to take to get you to, say, 3 appointments, you can use this rule of thumb. 10 meaningful conversations are going to yield 3 appointments. 3 appointments will yield 1 realtor. So in order to set up 2 realtors, you'll need to have 20 conversations. If there are 20 conversations or 20 working days in the month, you're going to need to have 1 good conversation per day to hit that goal. So in going through that, and you can tweak this to make it your own specifics, okay? You know, if it takes you 15 conversations to get 3 appointments, and so be it. Maybe it takes you 5 appointments to yield 1 realtor. You can adjust it accordingly. So this isn't something that's hard, fast rules, but this is a good rule of thumb to work on. There are also numbers behind the goals. Now, most goals need to be broken down into specific actions that need to occur. For example, if you have a goal of 100 refinance fundings per month, this is where you can start diving into these numbers, and metrics can really help you here. That if the average loan officer will fund three refinance deals per month, and the average pull-through rate is 68%. So in other words, you look at about 3 out of 4 deals will fund in a given month. So, or 3 out of 4 orders will actually fund. So 3 deals divided by 68% means that you need to have 4.4 orders to close those 3 deals. So you've got to assume for some fallout, right? So in this example, you'd need 147.06 orders to hit 100 fundings. That's going to allow for fallout. Your fallout may vary depending on the area or the quality of the loans themselves. So you got to be aware of that. And this is where metrics can really help you with this. So if the average loan officer sends you 4.4 orders per month, you'll need 33 loan officers sending you their business. So in breaking these things down, and this is where metrics matter, and going through this stuff, figuring out and how to dissect, really doing an autopsy on those 100 fundings to say, okay, this is what I need to occur, this is what needs to occur in order for me to hit this. So it's no longer just tracking 100 refinances, you're actually tracking, you're trying to find 33 loan officers to send you their business. So now you can break this thing down to make it even more manageable for you. Okay, time for a little bit of a study break. We've gone through production dynamics and the ideas behind this thing. I wanted to share a little cautionary tale in regards to the dangers of not knowing the numbers. Get a load of this video and we'll circle back here.
Hey guys, just thought you might want to know, sales aren't up, they're down. Yes, sir.
So there's my cautionary tale of not knowing numbers on a daily basis. The last thing you want to do is ever get into a meeting and think numbers are going one way and actually they're going completely the other direction. So I hope you got a little kick out of that one. We're going to call it here for the day. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these things inside the 20-minute range so you can digest these things in quick little tips. So we're going to call it for today. Have a great day. Finish up the book if you haven't finished up the 7 Habits, and we will talk to you again soon. Take care.